Hello there.
Cole?
Hey, Charlie, long time.
Yeah.
You got Philip coming in.
Hello, hello.
How we doing? Good to see you. Philip, good to see you. Got John, Deb.
Guys.
Just gonna give it a few minutes for people to come in. The man himself.
Hello there.
Hi everybody, I'll be off camera today. Sorry I'm sick.
You sound terrible, Jake. Are you as bad as you sound?
Nah, not that bad.
All right. While we're waiting, I just wanted to. I'm sharing my screen. This was something I saw at New York City Climate Week. Occurs to me this is a really good logo for the movement. I don't know whether Earth Protectors is an organization or whether they claim that logo, but I think that one tells a really good story. Have you seen it before? The upside down peace symbol as green tree? You have, Carolyn.
Yes, it's the ecocide movement that started in Stroud, started with Polly Higgins, and Polly Higgins died actually in April 19 during our first Extinction Rebellion, and it's been taken over by someone called Joe Mehta, and they are making strides with the legal system in Holland in particular. That's where the international institution is, I believe. But we were always encouraged to become an Earth Protector, to become a member through becoming an Earth Protector.
I will look into it.
I've befriended the founders during New York Climate Week on several events, and they're allies of ours if we want them to be.
Cool. Raghu, how nice to see you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's my first
There we
time meeting. I just decided to drop in and see what it looks like. I enjoy all the emails that I get from wonderful folks. Thank you.
Well, that makes one of you. Most people say I get too many emails, and indeed, we're going to talk about our search for a better platform. But you know, it's a good problem to have. There's a lot going on.
Well, John, is that the reason that there was a sort of, I noticed a flood of emails from Cole that I had to sort of dig down through to find the original one for today?
Actually, I wasn't aware of a flood today.
Oh my God. I think there are about 10 of them, all one right after another.
Can you send those to me, Fred?
I didn't read them, but
those.
That's a bug.
Cole,
Yeah.
no, it's the Google Calendar updates, and I don't know why it does that, but every time he goes in and changes or updates the meetings going forward, there's a flood of emails, and it's actually very confusing because you see all these multiples of every 6 weeks and different days, but I don't, there's supposed to be a way, Cole, to turn it off so that people
Yeah.
don't necessarily get that, but Jamaica's had the same challenge where she's like, I've turned it off and people still get the like event canceled things, but that's, I think it was you updating the Google Calendar.
Did everybody get those
Today.
emails, or was it just a few people? Stefan got them,
Philip.
Philip didn't.
I think it's the
Okay.
internet's way of pissing us all off.
Or
I
saving
have-
us.
I'm wondering whether if you are subscribed to the calendar, it just shows up on your calendar. But if you are not subscribed, as I will now suspect is true for Fred and Deb, that's how it happens.
Yeah, well,
Mhm.
that may be.
I
I'll
only
go
have
through
one
and see what I can find out about it. We're going to be doing potentially doing some upgrades soon, so that might negate everything, but I'll try to get that shut off so we're not
That's
pestering
okay,
everybody.
Cole, it does make sense if it's just those of us that haven't subscribed to the calendar, that we're gonna get an email notification instead. I mean, that
Mhm.
makes sense. You might not have a choice about it.
Mhm.
Well,
It's okay.
I
It works.
only have one email from Cole from 6 hours ago in response to something Don sent.
And I'll bet, are you subscribed to the calendar?
Yes.
Okay. It's a data point.
Mystery
Well,
solved anyway, right?
say it again.
Mystery solved.
Maybe.
Good job, Don.
There you go. Okay, I am delighted to see old friends and new here. We have an agenda. The agenda includes these changes to the agenda and changes to our routine. And we're gonna go through it. One of the things we have resolved to do is not spend so much time on introductions. But Cole, I can't resist the urge to just have everybody name themselves and a sentence of affiliation, just because not everybody knows everybody. So I'm John Schell, co-founder of the Eco Restoration Alliance, and I'm going to pass it to Cole to be equally concise.
Thank you. I'm Cole. I am the coordinator for the Eco Restoration Alliance, and I'm going to pass it to Deb.
Hi, Deb Fennessy, and part of certainly the Eco Restoration Alliance. I consider that a very important affiliation, and also supporting the Open Future Coalition team as we onboard and support communities in using the Open Impact platform. Stefan?
Yes, hello everybody from Germany. I'm principally working for the Climate Landscapes Network conference and more generally on RegAct practices in Germany. And I pass it over to Russ.
Hi, I'm a very strong supporter of the Eco Restoration Alliance, and I'll pass it to Tanya.
Hi, I'm eating, so I'll put my video on later. I am the Digital Communications and Outreach Manager at Biodiversity for Livable Climate, and I'll pass it to Fred.
Oh my, who am I? I'm an independent, demented economist who is trying to make as much trouble for my field as possible because they've been on the wrong track for many years. And I work with Bio4Climate and have taught some courses on ecological economics, and I'm thinking about my next round of that effort. So I will pass it to Philip.
Philip Bogdanoff on the board of Bio4Climate, big supporter of ERA and many other projects. I'll pass it to Raghu.
Raghu Bharadwaj, I've been consulted. I'm a computer scientist / biochemist by training, and I've consulted for a lot of the big ag companies for the last 10 years. And I kind of did that because I felt that, it's cool to be able to help feed the world. But as I do all this, I realize that there's this big problem called climate change hitting us at a fantastic pace. And I don't think anybody knows how the heck to solve it. And a corporation may not be the right place. They may not have the right motivations to solve it. So therefore, I'm curious in joining this group, that perspective.
Thank you. And who do you want to pass the talking stick to?
To Caroline. Caroline.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Hey,
My
Ju-
name's,
Oh, I thought that was Caroline. I thought that was me, but maybe I'm wrong.
my bad. Sorry, heard that wrong.
Are you
heard
called
Jay Kelly.
Caroline? I don't know who you are.
The floor recognizes Carolyn Piquel.
Was that for me, Raghu?
Yes.
Okay, just checking in. And you got it. I'm French from background, so it's actually Caroline, not Caroline. So thank you for that. It's really nice. I used to be a business consultant. I used to work in innovation and communication. I became a dialogue specialist and then changed my life and moved with Extinction Rebellion UK for 3 years at the center of it. I'm winding things down now, but out of the fire circles I run, for which we were invited to Davos within months of running them, so bringing dialogue to people in places of power and influence. I met Celia. Celia is the co-founder of the Art of Forest Alliance, and Celia asked me to come in and activate the community of organizations who are involved in reforestation, ecosystem restoration around the world. And we've moved from 60 members in January when I came in to 180, I think, at the moment. So it's growing. And that's why I'm here. I'm very grateful for. It's the first time I can attend a meeting because it's not in the middle of the night for me because I live on the Isle of Wight in the UK. So I'm very honored and grateful to be able to attend tonight as an observer, mostly just to learn. I'm learning from other networks and see how we can all connect and grow together, scale, so we can scale what we do as efficiently as possible. That certainly is one of the ambitions of the Alliance.
Well, listen, we have similar ambitions and a similar needs. So whatever you learn, please share it with us. So to whom do you want to pass the torch?
Oh, to the Global Earth Repair. I think someone called Michael, I'm guessing.
That's right. Unmute, Michael.
Okay, sorry there. But anyway, nice to meet Caroline and hear about her forest network. My organization is called the Friends of the Trees Society since 1978, and we've done many things over the years. And of course, right now, the Global Earth Repair Summit is our big event that we're working on. And later in the session here, I'll give a little report on that. But it's nice to be back with seeing familiar faces and new ones. I guess I could say I'm based in Washington State, but do a lot of international networking and regional networking and local networking. So I'm working at quite a few scales here. At any rate, lovely to be part of the group.
And you pass
pass it on to, well, I got here kind of late, so I don't know who all has actually gone, but I see a Tanya Roa down here if she hasn't gone.
No, she has gone. So
Okay.
I will restart the process by pointing to Adam Sachs.
My name's Adam Sachs, and I'm the Executive Director of Biodiversity for a Livable Climate and a co-founder with John Schull of the Eco Restoration Alliance.
And you pass it to?
Pass it to Nancy Lee Wood.
Hello all, I'm Nancy Lee Wood. I'm in Taunton, Massachusetts on the East Coast, the Northeast coast of the United States. And I'm a member of Biodiversity for a Livable Climate. I'm on the board, and I'm also on the board of Agraria in Yellow Springs, Ohio. and I'm a sociologist.
And you are passing the torch to Charlie Shore.
Charlie Shore.
You. Yeah, my name is Shore, Shore, despite what the name tag says. I am the ERA map guy. And I will pass it to Paula.
Thanks, Charlie. Hello, nice to see everyone. I am Associate Director of Biodiversity for a Livable Climate, and obviously co-founder and supporter of the ERA. And the only thing I'll mention is a series of presentations on WGBH that we are curating. And the next one will be Anastasia Makareva and Jan Pokorny on October 21st, and you'll get a notice about it.
Great.
And if the stars are aligned correctly, they will also be able to be part or presented at the Global Earth Repair Conference, depending on alignment, Michael. We'll see.
Yes, if it works.
Yep.
So I think that leaves Ananda.
Hi, I'm Ananda. I'm in Canada. I'm representing Regeneration Canada in the Eco Restoration Alliance. It's an organization promoting soil regeneration in Canada. And I'm also the author of a book called Hydrate the Earth. And I think Jake has not gone because of the confusion with Jake and Caroline. So I'll
Thank
hand
you so much.
Thank you very much. Apologies for the confusion. My name is Jake Kelly. I'm an entrepreneur for a company called Blue Green Futures. So my clients are Foundation for Climate Restoration, Our Planet, Our Future. But I love scaling up solutions in responsible ways, nature-based and tech, and finding a balance between them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So actually, Cole is going to be running a good part of the next part of the meeting, and is going to mention that we're doing what we can to follow up on the last meeting's effort to have someone other than me playing this role. But since I'm here now, I'm going to say that Cole is going to walk us through preliminary findings from the survey of members that we did. And as you watch his presentation, you're going to see that we've heard some messages and we're already beginning to act on them. And that means that if you haven't done the survey or know someone who hasn't done the survey or who might not have done the survey, you should urge them to do it, because we're taking it seriously and it's providing some really good guidance. So with that, Cole Enos.
There we go. Using multiple screens here, so it takes me a minute to get everything organized once I start screen sharing. So we're going to be talking about proposed changes to how we operate, and this is all based on the feedback that we got from the survey. During the survey, we wanted to get feedback and try to gauge why people join the ERA, how we can encourage their participation. We asked for ideas on how we can grow, as well as what member services we would like to provide, and how we can improve our communication among members. We've received 21 responses so far, and more are welcome. At the end here, you'll see we're going to keep this going for about another week. So if you feel like you're not represented by the numbers that I show here, you still have that opportunity to put an input, and we can take a look at it. One of the first things we asked were why people joined up as a member of the ERA. The top 3 responses we got, as you can see here, were to amplify the eco-restoration message, to network with others, and to share knowledge and learn from others. Relatively few people said that they wanted to market their professional services as a practitioner. And interestingly enough, very few people said they joined to get funding, which we'll discuss a little bit later on. And here we go again with the top 3 answers here. The second part that we looked at were what could the ERA do differently that would encourage your attendance and participation at biweekly town hall meetings. Some of the clear ones that we got from asking that were to define a clear goal, clarify some key objectives during these meetings. We got some feedback saying that they're often too long and our introductions take most of the time. So like you see today, we're trying to keep things a little bit more brief in the beginning and focus more on what we're here to talk about. And someone also had suggested that formal presentations would be interesting to see, and that they would be willing to change their schedule if a topic was interesting enough to attend. To kind of summarize it, this last quote here that's been underlined, the few meetings that I've gone to were a bit long. The introductions took a while. If the agenda was more clear and it lasted an hour, it would feel more doable. So from that, we're trying to cut back on the amount of time we spent just talking loosely. We're going to focus more on topics that are of interest to people, and we're going to try to scale back on how often we're meeting. But I'll get to that in a little bit, and obviously with everyone's approval. The other part we wanted to look at was how we can foster a welcoming environment and encourage diversity amongst our community. We want to focus on the needs of our members. This is all based on the feedback as well. People said they wanted to see us try to focus outside of the USA. We are very US centric right now, and so moving past that. One of the suggestions to do that was to introduce parallel groups that would operate in other languages and possibly in other regions. Another great suggestion was to create an attractive website and really boost our social media presence. And we saw a lot of people asking us to invite more Indigenous, young, and underrepresented groups to our meetings and offer them a space to showcase themselves and the work that they're doing. The other part that we talked about was how could the ERA best serve your work? The top three here that you'll see in just a second were to collaborate on initiatives and projects of shared interest. You'd like to see us educate the public and facilitate discussions, analysis, and action plans on critical climate issues and current crises. The fourth most selected option was to help with funding opportunities, which is interesting because most people said that they did not join to get funding, but that they would like to see funding opportunities. And I'm taking this as you don't need the money for yourself, but you'd like to see money available for other members. That might not be the case, but it's something we'll talk about and we'll push forward on as we go. One of the final bits here was if the ERA were to organize working groups, would you be interested in participating? Majority of people said yes, they'd participate in groups that they're interested in. The second biggest selection was maybe, which I take as if your time allows and if you find it interesting. And then it kind of breaks down from there. But overwhelmingly, people are interested in working together on problems that they feel are important, which is good to see. And finally, we asked about communications. There were a lot of different responses here. And so what we kind of distilled from that were that you feel the email group is a bit disorganized and kind of difficult to follow, as we saw today with the mass emails going out about the calendar. A lot of people said that they would like to see us use a platform that allows for more distinct conversation threads and passive contributions like thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe even just plain emojis. And there was a request that we add brief summaries for any resources that are shared, whether they be articles or videos, anything like that. If you're going to post it to the group, we just ask that maybe you add a sentence or two about what that content is and how it pertains to a conversation or whatever it is that you're adding it on to. So from these things, we are proposing several bits of change here. Moving forward, we would like to see town hall meetings move to a monthly schedule instead of a bi-weekly schedule. The times will continue to rotate so that way we can accommodate people in different time zones. We'd like to see the meetings take on a more topic focused with presentations by members and guests, and also have varying moderators. As John said, it'd be nice to hear from other people and get input from those who are most knowledgeable about whatever topic we're going to be discussing. And as we already said, we're looking to spend less time on introductions and updates. and we'll still allow new members to present on themselves and their work. And what we can do is distill the recordings of those and put them into the member directory. So you'll still have a resource you can go to get to know your fellow ERA members, but you won't have to hear it every single time you join a meeting room and so on and so forth. Before we jump any further, just about the town hall meetings, does anyone have any questions or comments that they'd like to put in? Alrighty. And again, these are proposed. Obviously, we want everyone to be in agreement about it. If you feel like it doesn't suit the ERA's needs or your needs, we definitely want to hear more about that and get your input. I see Ananda's hand, and then I see Philip's hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, if town hall meetings are only once a month and at different time zones, then that means that many people like myself will only be attending once every 3 months. And so I would like it if the town hall meetings were not the primary means of communication.
Definitely. That is good input there. So that's something we can look at, and we can try to figure out further so that we are having more meaningful conversations in places outside of the town hall meetings. As we've mentioned in the past, obviously it's difficult for everyone to meet at a specific time, and it may not always be pertinent to whatever it is you're working on. So I think if we can move to a communication platform that allows everyone to kind of contribute when it works for them, we'll not only be able to hear from people who can't make it to the town hall meetings, but get more input overall. Philip, I saw your hand next, and then Charlie, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if we can interpret the responses so far. You know, I'm not here to get funding, but nonetheless, I would like help with fundraising, as you know, the submitting a proposal sometimes is quite an onerous task depending on the requirements of the funder, and it might be helpful if not only were we made aware of funding proposals, but if somebody's working on something, if they could post, or if there's some way to sort of call for help for aspects where there might be some expertise that could help flesh out a proposal.
Definitely.
It's a good point. I think one of the underlying solutions to all of these concerns is that we want a better collaboration platform so that people can, outside of the meetings, easily communicate, easily catch up, easily signal their interest in a topic without feeling that they're going to be burdening other people's emails. And so we're going to have to find the platform that does that. And that could well include working on various grants, as has happened occasionally already. I jumped ahead.
I saw Charlie's hand first, and then Deb.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest. I'm not sure if you're recording these meetings now, but I think it would be a good idea for people in different time zones so that they can view the meeting the following day if they're interested.
Definitely. We do record all these meetings, and they are available on our YouTube channel. Part of what I'm going to be talking about next is how to make that information more accessible and kind of make everything else easier for people to follow and track. And again, that also ties back into communications platforms where people are viewing the town hall meeting and they want to add input on it. We need a good way of getting people to do that. Deb.
I'm wondering how moving to a topical meeting, and I considered the same thing Ananda just mentioned about then it'll be every 3 months instead of every 6 weeks, but also moving to a topic. I don't know how much feedback you got that people wanted to move that direction, but there's a couple of considerations there. I mean, it looked like networking and connection and how we support our membership was up at the top of the list. And I think that opportunities to highlight different members and engage makes sense. But tying it into moving to a platform to engage, as Nanda was talking about, how do we engage? What I see and observe is that it's still, there still needs to be a place where you're engaging together and having people then bring those conversations into a platform. And so I guess I'm still feeling like you need to find a balance if you got a lot of input to not do the updates with folks, but some way where what we're focused on is highlighting members and what's happening in the ERA and with our members needs to be the focus. It seems to me there's enough places where people get particular topics and can go to talks and presentations. And I know ERA is doing a lot around education, but is our town hall meeting really the place for that? I guess just putting out a question relative to that in the bigger picture of what we want to accomplish in town hall meetings. And I feel it's a time to see and connect with you all, because right now it's every 6 weeks and it'll go to every 3 months. So I'm not as personally motivated to come for, I mean, I might come for a topic, but then you're going to rotate between time zones, and it depends on whether, you happen to hit my time zone with the topic that I want to. So sorry, thinking out loud, but.
No, I appreciate that.
I think it's a really good point. Part of what we're looking to include in the new town hall system is that we do recognize it's a change from what we normally do. And so using a system where perhaps we open up the meeting room half an hour early for people to come in and kind of discuss amongst one another any updates, or do the regular how do you do's before we move into a topic-based discussion. And also that those topics that we're looking to present on aren't simply lecture times. We want to involve discussions, but have it focus on things that are important to our members. So if something were, if a lot of members say that they want to get more networking in, one of the topics that we would focus on is how to network better, who we can approach about widening our networks and things like that. Very good input, and we are definitely thinking about that as we go ahead here. John.
So I just wanted to point out that in trying to respond to this feedback, we've sort of made 2 suggestions, which combined really do reduce our face time a lot. We talked about making it a 1-month meeting, and we talked about making it a once a month meeting and a 1 hour rather than the 2 meetings. So that's actually a 4-fold reduction in the amount of face time we get. Cole, if you page back to the previous slide, it will help people remember what the topics of conversation are. And I just want to point out that we don't necessarily have to adopt both of those immediately. Given what Deb and Ananda has said, we could, for example, try to stick with it, just as an offer. We could stick with a 2-week schedule, but 1 hour meetings with the possible social half hour before or after. So there's room for negotiation here. I'd like to hear more thoughts on this. Let me say, I'm not even comfortable saying there's room for negotiation. We're just trying to figure out what people want. Not a negotiation, it's a discussion. Caroline.
Oh, I just wanted to share the experience of the Art of Forest, because we're still in experimentation, I would say. But interestingly, we don't meet as members. We only meet. I started the social once a month, where they come and meet in breakout rooms. It's like a matchmaking in some form. And then we do social with one person with a really interesting story to share for the rest of the members to then ask questions and share. Then we have work streams, and we use Slack. We've used Slack, and everybody's been against Slack, but most of them are on it now. It's taken a while. And we have work streams according to the different topics that they're working on, and we're developing workshops and events according to the work streams, really responding to what's emerging. And my role is to empower people to drive it. So I try to find a member to drive a specific work stream, and I support them. So that's just how, wanted to share how, and it's all evolving, but that's where we got to at the moment.
So I want to make sure I understood. So you do have a recurring meeting, but it's a matchmaking meeting, but then you
So-
all,
As in terms of governance, we meet weekly. It's just the four of us. So it's the two co-founders, Jeffrey and myself, will meet every week for an hour. And then the leadership circle, which is about 10 organizations represented, will meet every quarter. And every quarter we report to them basically in terms of where we're at and what we've been doing, and listen to what is coming up for them next. So within that, we experiment, but we have work streams along specific topics. So next week we have a workshop on communities and how to get them to benefit more from carbon credits. It's a very strong topic for a lot of members. And I have Plan Vivo coming to present 5 days before that, because that's one of the business models. And that's all emergent, John. It's just happened. So we reach out to people and we say, this is what we're doing. We're coming from a place of friendship and reciprocity and collaboration in this way. Will you be part of it? You know, so will you help and come and present? So it's very, very organic and emergent. It's not, and the governance is very light. We don't spend time talking in that way. It's very much about the purpose of the Alliance is for people to share know-how and scale. So it's creating platforms, circumstances for that. So the social is very, very recent. I'm doing it for 3 months to see how it goes, and it was really popular the first time around. So I'm learning as I go personally. It's just trying things and seeing how members are responding to it.
so I'll just say that all sounds really interesting and worthwhile. And if you get to the point where you feel you have a strong recommendation to make, I'm sure I'm not the only person who'd like to hear it. These are all useful ideas. Raghu, your hand's up.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Caroline's recommendation. I think something like Slack or Microsoft Teams, where you can create separate teams for certain activities. If you're interested in a project, you just create a team and you can put documents, files, whatever you want in there. There's also this element of being able to just, message somebody. So it comes directly on their phone or whatever. And it allows remote working. It just makes it a lot easier. And you can also have meetings, face-to-face meetings, just like with Zoom on those platforms. So I would suggest looking at something like that.
Well, we will. So you've mentioned Slack and Teams. Other people have mentioned Discord. I looked at WT Social today. I think it is clear that email and Google Groups is not doing everything we would like. So as the next section of Cole's presentation will show, we're beginning to think about website and then platform. So other nominations would be quite welcome. It's a big deal to get everyone to converge on any platform. And personally, I have my problem with Slack. So I don't expect it to be easy, but I do think it's important.
Yeah, Teams has worked pretty well from what I've seen in corporate settings. So because people know Microsoft and it's all the Microsoft stuff. So it's, I'm just putting that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Philip.
Paul, can you go back to your 5th slide? And while you're doing that, I'm kind of the Unix school. Many simple tools applied effectively rather than wedding ourselves to a platform like Slack or Discord. I think we need to learn how to use the tools that are most accessible to everyone better. I mean, the shortcomings are not necessarily in the tools, but in how we use them. On this slide, I think the things that are in bold: define a clear goal, clarify some key objectives, and formal presentations. I think if we aim to do those things, then some of this other chatter might be seen as in service to some of these objectives. So I think we're we're a little bit more than a year old now. We have grown in terms of numbers of organizations and individuals that participate. They don't all show up here, which is a mixed blessing, I guess. And I think we're mature enough that perhaps we need to try to wrestle out what exactly are we trying to achieve and focus on that.
I hope that Philip will become part of the platforms and the tools working group.
Here, here. I just wanted to point out a comment that Tanya had made in the chat, where she says that from her understanding, WhatsApp is the most accessible. So right now, I think WhatsApp has been recommended at least twice.
Yeah, and it's certainly true for the far-flung people on other continents for whom WhatsApp seems to be the leading platform. So that really is a good argument if we want to continue to push for their involvement, meet them where they live, so to speak.
Especially our colleagues in Africa.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, great.
Before we move on, does anybody else have any comments or questions?
I did wonder how the working groups fit into this, and whether if we actually really develop the working groups, they can be nexus for conversations and presentations.
Absolutely. I think that's a perfect segue into the next part here, where if I can get Zoom out of the way, perfect. So part of what we're going to be looking at as a secondary is upgrading ecorestorationalliance.net. The main focus that I'm taking in upgrading it is to make it more concise, more welcoming, and to be more pertinent to ERA members. Part of this is going to be in service to facilitating or to encouraging our working groups, and I'll talk a little bit more about that after this. But just to give you a brief overview of what I'm looking to do, to make it more concise, we're basically going to be taking using less words on the website and adding more visuals. I really want to try to simplify the layout and get people where they need to go as quickly as possible once they visit the site. And I'm going to do that by featuring what's most important and creating separate pages for the most utilized tools that we have right now, which would be things like the white paper and things like the big map. In terms of welcoming people, this would be more for those who are not ERA members, but are interested in our messaging and maybe even becoming an ERA member. To do that, I'm going to look at making the site more presentable and attractive. Just today, John and I had a couple of great conversations with people about really using a positive spin on the eco-restoration message and how that works like honey instead of vinegar to catch all the flies, if you will. And once again, we really want to put people on the path to the right information. So rather than trying to present all of the information in one location, this will put them on the path to where it already is. So this would be linking to our member sites and also give them the tools for doing other things like joining the ERA or anything else that they might want to do. And finally, for ERA members who are using the site, we kind of want to make this the hub so that it's easier access to whatever it is that you're trying to get access to. This could involve things like surveys, like the one we just presented. Calendars and events is a big one that I'm trying to refine, so we're not getting blasted with a million messages every time Cole shifts one little thing. And this will also feature things like our social media presence. It'll provide tools and how-tos on using our network. So if you have something you'd like to see us post, we can put it up and share your message with our network, as well as other initiatives, which would be things like our working groups and tools like the member directory or anything else that you would need access to. Once we kind of get past those two things, we're going to be looking at a better communication platform. We'd like to encourage collaborative groups. So this would be like the working groups thing. We're thinking about doing a little bit more of an organic approach rather than forcibly facilitating these things. We want to encourage them to happen and then give them the momentum to keep going once they do. And a couple of groups that could form right away would be identifying and addressing specific member needs, and working on educating the public and just getting the general message out there. We do need your help and ideas with these, which is why I'm presenting this here and now. But if you think of something later, please email me or John, and definitely let us know of any of your thoughts. Before I finish up and get to final comments and questions, I just wanted to reaffirm that the feedback survey we have right now is going to be open for 1 more week. We will do this again in the future. And finally, thank you all for your contributions, comments, questions, and everything in between. Anything anybody else would like to ask or add or yell at me for? It's fine. All righty. Well, at least.
Well, give him a chance to breathe. If it ain't broke, we don't want to fix it. So actually, Cole, if you'll pay it back to the website, I just want to make sure that people agree that there's room for improvement here and that Cole's list is on the right track. Okay, a thumbs up. I'll take that, Deb. All right. Okay, good. So by the way, I do want to salute Cole. He's taken the lead on the survey, interpreting the results, thinking about these next steps, and obviously this presentation. And I think he's doing a great job while I've been heads down coaching him, but focusing on other things. Okay, is there a next section to your presentation, or are we back to where we were?
We're back to the agenda.
Okay. I do want to just return to Ananda and Deb, who sort of pushed back on the radical reduction of FaceTime. I offered a compromise, which is to say, let's keep with every 2 weeks, but let's aim for 1-hour meetings, possibly with with some spillover time for chatting. How do people feel about that?
Yeah. I actually just wanted to add in that part of the reason why we were looking to move back to monthly meetings would allow us to have enough time to organize anybody who would like to present or even facilitate the conversations. So one other option we might want to look at is monthly town hall meetings with a bi-weekly social hour where we can discuss in person other options or other topics that are not town hall specific. So it'd be a little bit of a lighter meeting. It would be shorter than what the town hall might look like. And that can also be on a rotating schedule so that, if the town hall happens in the morning for the month of people in the US, let's say, the conversation hour, we'll call it, can happen later in the afternoon for anybody who might have missed it and still wants to talk.
It's not clear to me that we're getting a strong signal on these variations on the theme. I'm happy to mull it over, and then by default, Cole and I will declare an answer. So we can proceed. Paula, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to say that, I think you, John, and Cole have done an amazing job, but I do think that it would be helpful to have other people part of the decisions going forward. So
indeed,
I'm hoping that other people who are not Bio4Climate affiliates, members, etc., would be a part of this decision making or recommendations.
Well, I appreciate that. I wonder whether Ananda and Deb, who are interested in this particular topic, would be willing to get together with Cole and me and anyone else who wants to join at a time to be determined, just so we can hash this through and see what we come up with. Deb, your game? Ananda, you willing?
Yes, I'm willing.
That's great. Thank you. And as I say, we'll announce this meeting in advance, and other people who want to weigh in will be quite welcome. That's great. Thank you, Paula. Okay, just because that was fairly organizational, I'm wondering if we can jump to the eco restoration extravaganza of events, so that we can talk about that. Remind ourselves that we're not just here to talk about the organization, but also to talk about actual eco restoration, etc. So just to review, on the agenda, and you have a link to it right there. There are a bunch of events coming up in the next few weeks. Stefan Schwarzer, who's with us, has a climate landscapes presentation. That one actually has an entry fee, although free access is available upon request. Jamaica and Deb and others at Open Impact are organizing 3 days of an open future forum. And the third day is specifically about eco restoration, but I suspect that all of the days are going to be have stuff of interest. And immediately after that comes Michael Pilarski's three-day event. Alpha Low has got a permaculture water summit on 2 days, and Transition US with Jess Alvarez-Barfrey has got this week of action going on. There are, in the agenda, there are links to all of these events. And if somebody who's organizing this has got some kind of a spreadsheet or something, is Jamaica here? Jamaica is here. Okay. So among the topics I want to raise is that possibly the organizers of some of these events might want to help us develop a super calendar that includes all of the agendas, so that those of us who are interested in all of this, but only have so many hours in the day, can pick and choose and jump around. Since Jamaica is here but has limited time, I give the floor to her.
Well, that's kind. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. I actually want to point to Michael and say Michael's actually been doing the best job of trying to aggregate all of these various connections. But we did spark early when we recognized that, Andrew Millison and of Zach Weiss were working on one virtual permaculture water summit, and then there was the Great Global Earth Repair, climate landscapes. There's the stuff that we're doing. We realized that we needed to be a bit more cooperative and strategic about trying to leverage these experiences. So we have been in conversations looking at ways to be cooperative, see about how the artifacts that come out of each of these sessions, the recordings, et cetera, could be in a shared repository. In general, co-promote, encourage people to attend this series of events. And even discussed at some point a bit of a report out, or kind of what's the outcomes of these experiences, not just sort of check out the recording, but what's really coming out of these, and how can we build momentum and look strategically. So while these are all coming up fast, and I think we've done our best to say, let's in general be cooperative with Stefan and Michael and others, I think that what we're realizing is, I think this is about a long game of strategy, of seeing all these points of convening and all these opportunities to bring these, experts and practitioners and people on the ground together. Let's harness that and look to 2023, that cycle, and be a bit strategic, see where there's maybe points on the map, find out how we can better sort of coordinate these efforts, and even maybe at times co-produce things or see artifacts that come out of these experiences. I don't know that we'll wrangle all of what we maybe have as hopeful intents for this round, but I think we're establishing the seeding of an opportunity to say, particularly in the field of sort of eco-restoration, climate action, all sorts of myriad of issues that I think we're all passionate about. How can we not sort of be redundant, or, the resourcing it takes to bring these things together? Is there a way to do that with efficiency that benefits building momentum for these networks of networks? So that's just a framing of kind of what we're all, those of us convening, are working on. I'll let each of the conveners here speak for themselves for their particular convenings, I will say that I offered to put together a bit of a kind of a shared graphic, which I hope to have by end of the week, that's specific to those who are in the ERA, at least to send through ERA, that says, you know, it's kind of Eco Restoration Week. Here's all these opportunities to come and join various sessions. Many of you are sort of participating or featured panelists. So I will at least create that. That's sort of like Eco Restoration Week, and that can be circulated so that people that we're all connected with through the network go, oh, there's something kind of happening. But my hope is that we can see the outcomes of those experiences, and maybe I bring it back to ERA and the constituents here to consider what is relevant sort of outcomes that helps continue to promote cohesion in the efforts we're all trying to work on together. And one mention I'll say, and then I'll kind of just talk about Open Future and then leave it for everyone else, is this idea of this sort of, Philip first brought it up on the Amazon calls, but Stefan kind of saw the points of that as well, of what would it look like to sort of have some created artifacts that were very simple key interventions, the way that you sort of have the 5 demands of the indigenous communities, which I can share for example in the chat, but something that's very easy to take when we go to COP, when we go to, you know, I was just in New York for Climate Week, something we can carry as an easy artifact when people are saying, well, what is the eco-restorations movement's key interventions, or their 7 key demands, something that we have signed off on as, yes, you know, the rehydrating landscapes, you know, reforesting, like what are those main key interventions that we're all sort of co-promoting, that if it was brought into a shared simple artifact with, of course, all the resources and people's white papers and expertise behind it, would help those of us who are ambassadoring in these spaces to be able to say, this is a representation of a cohesive body calling for key interventions and demands in these specific ways regarding biodiversity and eco-restoration. So that's something that's been named. I don't think we'll get to just completely coordinate it through the next, we have 2 weeks out, but I would like to seed it. I'd like to seed it. And of course, all of you are welcome to join these interactive discussions, at least the ones I'm hosting, of course, to see if we can advance on this in common. Yeah, so the last thing is I'll share the 5 demands so you can see an example of another community's sort of coordinated, clear, really easy to follow sort of demands. And we take that when I'm working sort of with indigenous communities as a way to point to their demands and requests of governments and, you know, corporations. So I'll share that in the chat, and then I'll share the Open Future Forum, and then I'll get off the floor so other people can talk. But the 3 days we're spanning are the 18th, we have the civic infrastructure and the built environment. The 19th, we have food systems, hunger, nutrition, regen ag. And then the 3rd day is eco-restoration climate. And so particularly on that 3rd day, we have a roundtable demonstration projects in eco-restoration. We have a session on things like the role of water, vegetation, and soil in cooling the planet. That will have, I think Stefan will be there, and Rob DeLate and some others here, just really naming that particular point of intervention between those 3 factors in kind of some of this work that's being done to say there's other ways to cool the planet besides focusing on carbon drawdown. So there's a few other sessions that day that may be interesting for folks. Some of it is about media strategies for collective action. Some of it is around, I don't want to give you our whole thing, but beyond carbon. So one of the big things that I think might be interesting to folks here is mechanisms for innovating new emergent impact credits beyond the carbon market. So water, soil credits, biodiversity credits, and the pieces that are starting to fall in place that make that something very possible. But one of the big pieces missing is the understanding of how to best measure. And you all are subject matter experts in understanding, well, how would you measure water credits in order to have them be an impact? How would you measure biodiversity? So along with obviously other things like Regen Network, we're partnering with an open team to sort of have ledgers for these impact credits. What does that look like to have integral impact credits that are based on true value and true quantitative and qualitative measurement? What are those measurements? So I put that back to the eco-restoration community, but that discussion is looking at how things are starting to shape. Water credits in particular is feeling like a really strong place to begin transforming this very carbon-driven narrative. And I just want to say this last piece on that point, that it's not about just replicating a very corrupt carbon market. It's about trying to say, what has the carbon market done well and where have they lacked, and what could we do in these new emergent areas that isn't as maybe hefty and corrupt. That's just kind of getting, greenwashing is a lot of what's happening in carbon markets. So how can we do something that isn't just greenwashing, but is actually bringing impact current, like resources basically into impact initiatives on the ground. So all of that to say, please check out the forum. You're all welcome as panelists. These are very roundtable participatory, other than a few like demonstration projects like Jean-Loup and others who are asking to share about their particular project. These are open roundtable participatory discussions, and we'd love to have all of you join. Thank you. I think that's plenty unless there's any questions. I want to hand it to Michael and Stefan and others.
Thank you, Jamaica. Michael or Stefan? Michael on mute.
Yeah, so I could leave it to Michael first. Yes.
Michael, you're talking, but you're on mute.
Excuse me. I'm deferring to Stefan for to go first. I'm curious.
Okay, I was curious to hear to listen to you first.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing really I would want to add. I mean, it's encouraging to see that in a couple of days' time, so to say, in a very narrow window, there are so many events taking place to repair the Earth. So I mean, this is really good news. So to say, it's bad news that this is happening at the same time. So I think it's worthwhile thinking about how to either distribute it or concentrate it next year if these kind of events will take place a second time or another time. So I think we are trying to make the best out of it by collaborating, by changing what is happening on the different platforms and events. So yeah. Thanks for collaboration.
I'd be curious just to hear how it's going for you. I was, like your registration, and you have the programs come together. Your systems are all working. Everything's just a little. I'm just curious of the scale, I guess, in a way.
Yeah, I'm curious about the scale, which how it will be as well, because in the moment we have some 40, 50 inscriptions only, which would be disappointing if it would be like this. And I mean, I don't really think that the entrance fee is really the big challenge, because I mean, it's 29 euros, so the least expensive one, and upon a request, it can be in principle for free. So yeah.
So we might say then that I see Adam's hand up, but a comment here that the number of speakers and participants in it, sometimes you put on an event and you want the public to come, but all you get are the presenters. And so all the presenters, in a sense, become the audience. Or sometimes I put on a marketplace and no customers come, it's only the vendors. And so they run around and do a little trade between themselves, in a sense. So it becomes more an in-house event of the people on the ground, rather than educating outsiders. It's sort of a insiders crowd. That's maybe what's happening with yours.
Yeah, we organized a similar event in Germany, in our German-speaking countries, in December last year, and we had a good over 200 participants, mostly scientists, but not only participating. This was quite a success, because it was the first time event which was talking about these climate landscapes connections. So I upon my opinion, it's just very difficult to attract attention to this kind of events, or at least for us as a very, very, very small association with 0.5 staff working on it, or 0.6, and not being really well connected. And in these times as well, where so many things are going on. I mean, that would be my thinking, because again, the German speaking conference was really successful.
I
It's
see
a
Adam
really
Hammond.
rich-
I'll just add that we intended this to be a peer driven. For us, it's an internal, like, let's get coordinated amongst each other in hopes for next year of something that can, or sort of inviting audiences that need to hear. So that was the nature of personally of our event. It wasn't meant to be sort of public. It was private invite of peers to try to create more coordination between people who are sort of working in common but haven't met. But I will say to you, one of the things we've done, Stefan, and it's not maybe too late, is we've asked our network partners to curate their network partners to ask their network partners. I don't think we're going to end up with like hundreds of people to a session either. But we've invited via the kind of shared web of partners. So I wonder about turning to partners saying, hey, invite people from your network, like who should be here. I just think we together, I'd like to look, it may be too late, like you said, for this one, and they're all kind of mashed together, but I'd like to see if we can kind of ripple engagement out through various networks a bit and see if that helps drive towards these events. So I'll at least ripple the two that we're all doing here, that you guys are doing, through any connections that we have, so that we're hopefully adding to your numbers there.
Adam.
I just wanted to say that we've had an explosion of people and organizations that are coming to see the light, that the conventional climate track isn't working. And many of them start their work not knowing that there are dozens or hundreds of others of us that have been doing this for years. And so we've got, I hesitate to call it competition, but we're just overwhelmed with lots of things, not just floods and droughts, but also with people getting scared and scurrying to try to find relief from what is a growing terror.
Nancy.
It's probably a little bit too late for for this suggestion, but certainly in the future, I would really like to see us figure out connecting with colleges and universities, and particularly environmental studies programs, biology departments, et cetera, to encourage faculty and students to participate in these events. I'm always finding, I teach at a community college in Massachusetts, and just by happenstance, I keep running into individual students who are just really interested in knowing more, but they don't quite know where to go, what program to study in, and so forth. So I think that we need to be making some real inroads with organizations that are looking at sustainability issues at colleges and universities, and connecting directly with colleges and universities. The best way to do it, I think, is through organizations such as ASHE here in the United States, as an example, that has many, many members. There's also the Global Council for Science and the Environment in DC that has a lot of members, something like 350 different colleges and universities.
What was the first one you mentioned?
It's ASHE, AASHE, and don't ask me what.
Okay.
But I can connect you with that. I've been really turned off by both ASHE and the Global Council, because they have been so focused on technological innovations. But I think we're at a point now where people are beginning to understand the technological innovations are only going to go so far, and that we really need to be doing something dramatically different. So I think the time is ripe for us to be connecting with the educational institutions in a much deeper way than we have been.
I think that's an important point. I'm not in academia anymore. You are. There, I don't know who Raghu is. But it is true that if we could somehow tie into the academic networks, if there were, for example, an eco-restoration week, or maybe we tie into the Earth Day programs, which are already a placeholder on everyone's calendar, we might be able to increase our reach. I will be thinking about it. I hope others will too.
Yeah. Could I just say something else? Anyone who would like to work on that, I would be willing to work on it with them.
That's what I like to
I'm
hear.
not going to take the lead or do it alone, but I would like to be part of a group that's working on this.
I'm happy to add ideas where I can. I used to be associated with academia, but found that, well, it's a long story. When you want to get real stuff done, you need real workers who can get their hands dirty. But that being said, I'm happy to brainstorm on ideas and see how I can help you there.
Yeah.
I sent
Thanks,
you a
Rocco.
LinkedIn request,
Yeah.
so probably communicate from there or via email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can count.
If I just may respond, I think that there are a lot of young people who would really be interested in getting their hands dirty. They just don't know where to go to do it. And I think that that's the connecting. That's what we need to be doing. It's not so much that they're going to become masters or PhD students in the field, but they'd like to know about John Liu's work, for instance, as an example, and they just have no idea where to go. They have no idea it even exists. They have no
Right.
idea where to go. And I that's the kind of thing I'd like to be trying to connect young people with.
I would add that get your hands dirty is a really good bit of advice for college students everywhere. And I mean that literally. And that might be a way of sort of trying to counteract the academic tendency to turn it all into book learning.
Right.
Paula?
Yeah, I think academia is a very good place that we've only at Bio for Climate begun to think about reaching out to. We put together a list of all of the departments at universities that were at least in the Northeastern United States that might be receptive to ideas about eco-restoration, but we've never actually used it to promote anything. We haven't quite figured out the what it is we can offer them except to let them know about events that we're having. Just in reference to the low registration for the two conferences, Michaels and Stevens, I mean, I just think that indeed there is just so much going on and that everybody's been trying to get something in place before COP. And I might be wrong, but I think COP has been the stimulus for so many things happening right now. But after COP, it's a whole different world as far as strategizing. Who do we get to? Carolyn did ask a question about, is anybody in this group actually going to be at COP on the inside on a panel? And to the best of my knowledge, nobody is, but I'd love to hear that they are.
I think we're all hanging hopes on Tom, right? Isn't Tom actively going to be in some of the UN panels?
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure he is, yeah. But the last thing I wanted to just comment on is that there's been a different trend with the GBH series, which is that we're starting to bring in more and more people. And WGBH, which is public television based in Boston, but with a national reach, is really urging us to keep going and to give them more. And so, and our registrations have been going up. So I'm not sure that will happen with Anastasia and Jan. That is like much more scientific than what we usually put out there. But that's been the trend. And maybe that is specifically a US trend. Maybe Europeans have known about this longer, have been aware longer, and this country is still in a very much waking up phase to how serious things are and what the potential is for what we can do about it. But I just want to, yeah. And also going back to the idea that the ERA needs to be bringing in more young Indigenous people who are working on the ground. After Jan and Anastasia, the next program we hope will be Nathan Liu, Mongol Tribe, Koki, William Koki, and Jess Parfrey. So thanks to John Schul, we have a team of young, energetic and largely Indigenous people who'll be presenting. And that's definitely something I agree that we need to be bringing in from other countries, not just the US.
Thank you, Paula. Raghu.
Yeah, I was just thinking a little bit more about Nancy Lee Wood's statement. I think one thing I see in all these colleges that they're encouraging is entrepreneurship with students and these startup contests and so on. And there are a lot of VCs also putting some good money behind this, and they usually have social tracks too. So maybe a path forward would be to build a way where we could enter with some of our objectives into those contests, have an entry there for students to innovate and solve problems that we pose in those contests. So happy to chat with you more about this, Nancy.
Okay.
Sorry, John.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'll begin on that conversation. I used to direct our Rochester Institute of Technology Center for Student Innovation. I know that, and I used to run those hackathons and those innovation fests and so on. And Jake has an interest in that also.
I do as well. Put my hat on that.
Okay, and I'm fairly cynical about it. So it's worth taking a fresh look. I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Nancy, the Global Council in its previous incarnation was the National Council, and it was directed by David Blockstein. And we've been working with him on worldwide teach-in efforts to try to add the nature-based solutions to the stuff that they've been now several years reaching out. I think they're up to close to 200 colleges and universities around the world.
I think they have more actually.
I think you're onto something, Nancy. You're not going to have to lead it since you've said you don't want to. It would be great if you did. But I think you're going to have to keep on rattling that cage so that if you be the gravitational center, I think there's a lot of us who would converge around it. And you're right. We just have to figure out how to tie into and influence the way the universities treat this whole problem right now.
Could I ask how many people would be interested in these discussions? And I mean, really interested to be, really working on it.
Okay.
Okay. Cole, can you keep track of all that, please? Thank you.
But I'd also like to suggest that word about this go out in some very direct way to the entire ERA community, because there are other university affiliated people and other people in the Alliance who might be interested in joining you. Yeah.
There definitely are.
Yeah.
And of course, a first step is going to be to see, has anyone put out the call on the university or the dean's networks or wherever the hell the university people try establishing these themes. If not, that could actually be a powerful intervention on our part, is to put out a general call for people interested in, I'm making this up, shifting the academic conference on climate change from theory to action and from carbon to natural solutions. And my guess is that we could get scores of academics into the same room at the same time. And then the question is, what do we do with them? But that actually would be a really nice thing for the ERA to take the initiative on if someone else hasn't already done it, is just to open that Pandora's box and then facilitate as we can. I see all sorts of hands up. Michael.
So this, I had several months ago, someone make me a list of colleges and universities that have environmental type programs that we could reach out to. Today, I lined up a new worker just this morning, and her job is to reach out to universities with ecosystem restoration degree programs to ask those, talk to somebody in the program and see if they would alert their students and faculty to the Earth Repair Summit, because some of them will be interested. So I am in the place that has this really all lined out is the Society for Ecological Restoration website. Has a long list of universities around the world and colleges with ecosystem restoration programs, and they've certified some of them as being really top notch. So we're in the process of going through, and we're just going to highlight some of those. We're not trying to reach them all this time. We don't have the time in our short time span here, but we're trying to, we're going to get the emails for the department, get a phone number for the department, call up the department and say, this is what we'd like to go out in your newsletter. Can you print out our poster and put it on your main bulletin board for your students and faculty to see? And we expect that maybe a few of them would say, okay, we will have a way to alert our people. Many of them will just ignore us most likely, but and then beyond that, we're going to see if there's a student body connected with that particular program, because the administration may not want to talk to us, but maybe there's somebody in the student body that would put it out to the students. So our goal is to make a list of the contacts, the phone numbers, which universities were open to the idea, which ones had student bodies we could communicate with. And we won't get that far this time in the next 2 weeks, but
that'll be a great starting point.
We're laying the groundwork for next time.
Great.
So I'm right on there with you, Nancy, and we'll have staff working on it, and we can. I'll be happy to collaborate with anyone else on making this, sort of I guess you might say, a spreadsheet of resources that we can tap into to reach into those institutions, because even though they may be more, what's it, hidebound and moribund or whatever, at any rate, they may be sticks in the mud in some ways, but there's always faculty and there's always students that are right in our camp and would want to work with us.
Agreed. Well, that's great. That's great. Jamaica, your hand is up.
It is up. I just want to make sure Nancy wasn't done. I see their hands too. I love that last idea, Michael. And I think again, Stefan, I think we'll do the best we can in 2 weeks. And I really want to keep the conversation about how can we look to like next year and be strategic and even help each other. Like, I think that it takes a lot to put these meetings on, and I'd like to see how we can kind of uplift a kind of group that's like, yeah, we like to convene and we want to do that in a way that isn't such a heavy lift on each team. But to your point, Nancy, I just wanted to say, I put in the chat that part of one of OFC's project initiatives that we're literally like one signature away from actually unlocking is the foundation of a National Center for Regenerative Extension, starting with North Carolina, but also we already have a relationship with UConn forming, and then we have, we're looking, I'm going to bring it to Andrew Millison. We have University of Hawaii. There's a few other universities we're already stacking once we open up and finish this first round with the North Carolina Ag NCAT. So I think that there's something really interesting there too about a potential where we have the ability to curate some programs within this national center. I mean, it's so US based, but it's like one example of hopefully many of trying to bring a regenerative center. That has a whole funding component to it, but curriculum wise is also the opportunity. So I'd like to see how maybe that can be leveraged for what you guys are all discussing. Yeah, we can, I don't want to take much time with it, but if people are curious about what exactly is happening over there, I'd be happy to discuss it more.
I'd like to know more.
Okay, yeah, Nancy, I can send you some information,
Okay.
yeah, about what we're up to.
Yeah, I just want to mention that, you know, a lot of the work that the students could be doing could be done for credit. Community service programs, a lot of colleges, and especially at community colleges right now, there's a lot of movement toward people doing community service and thinking about community in the much larger sense. Right? And also, I know that at a lot of colleges and universities, there are student organizations that are environmentally oriented or sustainability oriented.
Yep.
And you can move the students a lot faster than you can move any administration or faculty. You know, so
Agreed.
it would really be interesting to not only try to connect with administrators and faculty, who, by the way, I always find really drag their feet. It's so disappointing what's happening in academia right now. I mean, you can pull your hair out thinking about it. But student organizations, students they're on it. They want to be doing something. They just don't know what to do or where to go. And they're not getting the information in their classes to find out.
I hear you. I also want to point out that it's 4:26. But I think we've got a really good initiative here. Michael gets the last word on it.
Actually, what I want to do is give a little report on the Global Earth Repair Summit that's on the agenda. And so Stefan had a little bit of word, Jamaica
That's
did.
right.
So I want to now have my say. I also wanted, before we do that, the Permaculture Water Summit by Alpha Low. It says Alpha Low is behind it in the agenda, but I don't know what Alpha Low has to do with it. Maybe he brought it to your attention, but Andrew Millison and Oregon State University are behind the Permaculture Water Summit. And they are expecting, I just talked to Zach Weiss yesterday, who's one of the principals. And Zach said that they currently have 5,000 people signed up for it.
Wow.
And they expect to go into it with 10,000. And by the end of it, maybe hit 50,000. So anyway, they're looking at really big numbers. I can't even begin to fathom, you know. So in other words, they have really good outreach. And Andrew Millison is a fabulous networker. Oh my gosh, his YouTube's series on water restoration, etc., are just exemplary, some of the best. So at any rate, so he is really on the move. They are really, of course, they have a huge amount of money that the university is throwing at this. I don't know what their total budget is. I probably shouldn't say anything, but I can't. But I can tell you, I wouldn't be surprised it's a $50,000 kind of budget to put on their event. Of course, my event has a bigger budget actually, so I should talk. So the Global Earth Repair Summit has got off the, we started talking about it last April, was when I first broached the topic. We've gradually built up. We've had several setbacks, and we are now closing in on the finish line. And we have certainly maybe 150 people signed up, but we are expecting that to grow really, I'm hopeful that we'll hit 1,000 by the time we start, but we'll see. So what I'm going to be doing is asking all our collaborators, including Eco Restoration Alliance, as Jamaica said, if they would all send out a word to their networks, and if the restoration ecosystem restoration camps would send out to their networks, etc., then that would be that there's a lot of reach there. And so anyway, so I don't know how big we're going to get, but I do know that we've got some great people participating, some of the, including many members of ERA, and Zuzka Mulkarin is giving a presentation about, and Michelle Kravchik's going to come in after her presentation and help with the questions and answers. So, and Rob Delat, of course, and I'm talking with Russ Spear on Monday about his participation. John's going to be there and talk about the big map, etc. So I know we have a great program with a lot of people. The exciting thing that's happening, in a sense, is we are. Maybe I'll just mention one more big thing that's happening on October 16th. It's not even on your agenda, but Regeneration International is having World Food Summit. World Food Summit. Last year, they said they had 300,000 people, tune into it at one point or another during the thing. It's like makes your head spin. But they have a fantastic international network. They have great speakers. It goes all the way around the world for one day. And so that's where I got the idea for my Round the World event. And anyway, so October 16th, it should go on your agenda there. It should go on your calendar. They're doing great work. And I'm working with a number of their people. So we're going to do an Africa program, and they're going to have a whole different slate of presenters, their own program moderated by their people. It's an Africa program for restoration, but under our auspices, where we are, it's under the auspices of the summit. It's the Africa part of it. We have a Europe part of it with a Europe coordinator, and they're going to have all their own speakers and breakout rooms, etc. But they're only doing a 3-hour or 3.5 hour program per day. And then we have Ursilia Sahores in South and Central America doing a Spanish language program. So it's a global earth repair restoration, but in the Spanish language. They get their own speakers and they do the moderation. And then I'm here in the North America doing a North America version with ours is going to be a 6-hour long program and with speakers, and we're doing an unconference format in that during a lot of our sessions, anybody can schedule things on the fly. In other words, it isn't all preset. You have a certain number of speakers and everybody else keeps their mouth shut. No, we're setting up a system where a lot of people can be interrelating and interacting and planning together and meeting each other. And so we hope to have a really dynamic, a lot of dynamic things happen at our conference as a result of this. So anyway, so it's technically very challenging. I've just added, I think we are tech crews up to 6 people right now. And it's going to be, not to mention the tech people in the other countries. So at any rate, it's turned into just what I wanted, something that's very complex. And of course, so at any rate, so I'm real excited. I'm hoping that you'll all be there. And I know that Rob Delat is speaking at Stefan's thing and at Jamaica's thing and at my thing. So some people are just really in there. And John Liu is of course all over the map. So I just just encourage everybody to move forward like Stefan and all these, it's a tough uphill road to hoe to put these events on. But if we build on them, we're just going to gradually grow. I see the world movement as just about to just leaping. It's going to jump because the world is realizing that the trouble looks very bad and we better do something. And so a lot of people are getting ready to at least talk about change. And so at any rate, that's I guess I could take a few questions on this. I know that Adam and John have hands up, but are there any particular questions about the summit that I might field?
Is Precious Ferry your Africa organizer from Regeneration International?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, good. She is fantastic. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in good hands.
You are.
We have a great team.
Yep.
Okay, well then I'll take my hand down then. But at any rate, I'm excited and I hope that, as I said, that you all help me spread the word in this last 2 weeks, because that's the next big thing.
Right. Your faithful servants do that as a matter of course, but your fellow ERA members will also do it because you've asked to, and we will thank them for doing it. It's one of the services we can provide each other is to amplify our respective messages.
Yeah.
Since I'm yakking, I did want to say that coming out of this discussion, I'm beginning to wonder, here's a suggestion. I think lots of us are going to be sampling lots of events. Some of us are going to be comprehensively sampling all the events at your respective events. Do me a favor. Keep an eye out for clips, because I think that a highlights reel that cuts across this whole thing could be very powerful and could be an artifact, perhaps that we develop after the event, that could include our sort of critical demands, as Jamaica said, but might become an artifact that we can put together that would really crystallize the message and the breadth of activity that's going on right now. So take notes, take screenshots, try to note clips. We'll see if we come up with anything. Adam Sachs.
I just wanted to say that our first conference in 2014, we had about 200 people, and then we had a couple of smaller conferences through the rest of the year. And we put our videos up on YouTube, and it only occurred to me at the beginning of the following year to check YouTube, and to my astonishment, they had gotten 10,000 views without any publicity whatsoever. The speakers sent some of the links around, and now we're up to about almost 350,000 views over the past 8 years. So don't neglect putting what you've got up on YouTube.
What goes around comes around if you let it get around. Okay. So that's the event extravaganza. There are other such. We move on to, I think, the last topic on the agenda, which is, I just wanted to let ERA members know that there is a draft agreement document in the agenda, link in the agenda document, link about to show up in a chat box near you, which is the product of discussions that I've been having with Adam at ERA, most recently facilitated by Phil Bogdanoff, just talking about what is the relation between ERA and Bio for Climate and what should it be going forward. And we've fleshed out a particular model, which I will sketch for you. I am eager to get feedback from you, but it goes like this. It hasn't been approved, but the document at least lays out what we've been talking about. ERA is not a part of Bio for Climate, although we were co-founded in collaboration with Bio for Climate. But Bio for Climate has turned out to be just a wonderful resource and partner on this. And not only have they provided funding for coal up until now, not only have they provided the website that we use, they've also brought us many of the connections and people who have become part of the ERA. So they're really critical members of the Alliance, but as members of the Alliance, the understanding that we're trying to put on paper is that they are one member among many members. In that sense, they don't have any special status. However, they also can be fiscal sponsors, which means that if they are formally fiscal sponsors, they, being a 501c3, can accept donations targeted to the ERA in a fairly conventional fiscal sponsorship agreement. That means that the money donated for the purposes of ERA is put in a separate bank account and used by ERA for whatever ERA, not Bio for Climate, thinks is appropriate, so long as it's consistent with Bio for Climate's International Revenue Service 501c3 nonprofit status agreement, which is fairly well aligned with, of course, what we do. You all know that Bio for Climate is about biodiversity for a livable climate. Much of my understanding of the issues comes from the work they've done over the years. And so everything that we do right now fits under their 501c3. which means that if they are our fiscal sponsor, we can do fundraising by way of them. And as fiscal sponsors, they take care of the miserable task of filing 990s and tax returns and all of that. And by the way, in return for those miserable tasks and excellent services, they, like many fiscal sponsors, would get 10% of what was donated to the ERA. They also, of course, get to boast of ERA involvement in their own fundraising. And we get to, of course, do our own fundraising, and that would go into that same ERA account. So we've been living on good faith and ambiguity for a long time, and it's worked out quite well. But as we grow and as we evolve, we're trying to put on paper a proposition which the ERA and its members ought to be comfortable with. And just to summarize, ERA is an independent autonomous collective. It has many members. One of those members is Bio4Climate, that has no particular governance rights, but they also play the role of fiscal sponsor if we go ahead and sign this agreement. So we can talk about it again at the next meeting, but it's there for you to consider, for us to consider, for various attorneys to look at, and we'll see what we think. Was that understandable? And are there questions or comments?
I think you did it very well, John. Thank you.
Thank you. I will remind you that we have an anonymous survey available, ongoing, which is one opportunity for people to express any concerns they might have that they don't want to express in this very town hall meeting or even in non-anonymous emails. But I'm also welcome to hear any concerns or any encouragement directly under any channel anyone wants. Nancy,
I'm
your
sorry,
hands-
John, did you mention that we've done some significant funding of ERA as well?
I did mention that. I said that they paid Cole's salary.
Yeah.
And so they, yes, I did.
Okay.
Nancy? You're on mute, Nancy. You're still on mute, Nancy.
Sorry. I would just like to add a couple of things. One is I've had a work study student, and that student has been Cole, and the work study money that he has gained through the college where he's a student also has gone into his total income. It's been directed towards ERA. So I just wanted to make sure that was added. And secondly, I would like to, and I know that we have a biodiversity board meeting coming up on the 14th between 2 and 4. And I assume that this topic is going to be brought up. And I'm wondering if John is going to be invited for a period of time to talk about this issue within the board meeting. So maybe Adam, you could address that.
Okay. We'll address it. I don't know that this is the place to address it, but we'll address it.
Our operators will wait for your call. Thank you. Any other comments or questions about that? I will say that I still harbor fantasies about an ERA-controlled ERA fund that would meet some of the funding and initiative aspirations of the group. And that would be operable within this framework. Also, that we are inching our way towards a further understanding of our governance. This is the way we are operating right now. And I actually feel that we're making significant progress each way we go. And I'm trying to be a fairly non-interventionist, benevolent dictator until we have some further form of governance. But it's important to use the channels that we're trying to open, like the survey, like these discussions, like the discussion forum, to make suggestions and help define the ERA that we all collectively want. Having said that, I've become more and more impressed by the value of the networking and the interaction that just comes from the fact that this group convenes periodically, compares notes, and does the kind of thing we've done today. So that's the snapshot and the look forward. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's everything we had on our agenda. We have a few minutes for chatter or other updates or anything else people would like to do. Like pet their pets. Okay. I know that I'm going to be following up with Ananda and Deb, and when I say I mean Cole, and we'll be letting people know when this next meeting will be. I did see that Philip has offered to be a part of this assessment of possible platforms and tools for us to use as we go beyond Google Groups. We had this really interesting discussion of the assault on the universities, and Nancy is going to be a part of it, but I think who's going to arrange that first convening of people interested in that? Nancy, do you just want us to ask Cole to find a time for those who've expressed an interest to meet together? That would include you.
When we don't have somebody else to do something, Cole is the person who does it.
And he does it excellent.
And he does it very well.
That's right.
Cole, are you up to it?
There goes the thumb.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely. I can find the thumb emoji faster than my unmute button, I guess.
Okay then. All right. Well, I'm ready for a break. Thank you, everybody. I get a lot out of these meetings every time, and it's a pleasure to have you all to compare notes with. And Raghu, we should follow up.
Absolutely.
Since I haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I'll reach out to you independently. Yeah,
Yeah. Good.
thanks.
Yeah, this was a very good meeting. Thank you, John, and everybody.
Well, thank you. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bye-bye all. Take care.
Bye now.